a small firm that is specializing in developing incubation and entrepreneurship programs and ecosystems focused on the blue economy. And I take a little different approach to this in that I've been involved in many incubation programs and run several organizations that were there for the specific purpose of supporting the entrepreneur ecosystem. And so what I'm really talking about is more lessons that I've learned or things that I've observed over the time that I've been doing this. First of all, I think this won't be news to anyone, but just like incubation programs, just like small businesses, no two ecosystems, in my observation, are the same. They always have common practices. They always have programs that may be very similar, but they're often driven by different motivations. The people who are the leaders of them have different things they're trying to accomplish. And my job and the job of the people that I work with as developers is to identify the gaps in the ecosystem and see what we can do to fill those gaps. Often that's without resources. We tend to work in less developed countries, which very often means that there may be an ecosystem, but you have to identify what it is, and then you can start worrying about filling some of the gaps. And as we found in a couple of places, if no ecosystem is there, you have to build it. But that's the fun of being in this business, and I hope that you can understand my passion in trying to express to you how important this is for the entrepreneurs that we work with. This one as well, we all know that communications have gotten a lot better. We're going to be talking, working remotely, talking a lot on Zoom and other forms of communication. And for those of you in the same line of work that I'm in, obtaining technical assistance at 3 a.m. is now common if you're working overseas in any event. And so we just have to get used to it and enjoy the ride while we can be on it. Third, I'd like to talk about the fact that champions are such an important part of developing ecosystems. Similar again to businesses, similar to incubators and accelerators, the people who take on this work, who decide that they are going to step up and make the communication happen, the people who are going to help clarify what the dialogue is so that actions can occur, programs can be developed and so forth, are what I call the champions of this business. And they really play an important role because they make all the other things come together and make it possible for us to have these successful programs. And one of the most important things they do is make introductions of one set of members in the ecosystem to the others. Fourth, I like to tell stories when I explain some of the things that I've done in the past. And one of them is about Gatekeepers. Many years ago, we started an incubation program in Southern California. The city there was very interested in what we were doing. But a gatekeeper at a local university told me that we weren't going to do it if he didn't say so. Well, we took that on as kind of a challenge and formed a nonprofit. We did the feasibility study. We wrote the business plan, recruited the mentors and so forth. And it took us about 3 years to put it together. And the city built us a building.
How are you? I need some help.
But when we opened the doors of this program, 3 years later, we brought to bear
Try down here.
Commercial banking. Did you lose me?
We have you. I think somebody else is speaking, but we have you still.
Okay. All right. We brought commercial banking into an area of the city that was in dire need of that kind of service. It was one of their first access to finance activities. And what we learned from that is that gatekeepers frequently do not have as much power as they think they do. But more importantly, that persistence is something that you really have to take seriously if you're going to build successful ecosystems. We have a formula for the programs that we've run in the past, and at least the last three incubators I've been involved with, we made it a point to establish programs. We call them entrepreneurs forums. I ran one for 15 years in New Jersey, ran another one at the Port of Los Angeles for another 3.5 years, ran a third one in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They were all different, but they all had the same basic formula, which was giving entrepreneurs a chance to talk about their program, a chance to do a practice pitch if they wanted to do a financing pitch, a chance to learn something, and this was true at every single meeting, a chance to learn something about running a successful business, and the most important part, a chance to network with all the other entrepreneurs, service providers, and capital providers that were there, and have a chance to learn what they do and how they can work together. And that kind of comity, I think, is particularly important when you're forming an ecosystem. And I should mention the last secret ingredient to successful meetings of that type: have food, have good food. Because when people have a chance to break bread together and get a chance to meet each other at the same time, I think you'll find that your ecosystem events will be much more successful. And bear in mind that visitors who come for the first time, if they come back, are now repeat visitors, and repeat visitors often become presenters, and presenters often become sponsors and donors. So cultivating the interactions that you have with all the people at these meetings will give a success, an ecosystem, I think, a leg up. I might also say that I've found in emerging countries that diaspora members are often big supporters. They can be investors. They love to come back to their home country, at least their country of origin, and invest in businesses there. And so if you're forming an ecosystem and you are going to, it's worth it for you to take advantage of an opportunity to meet with any of the diaspora members that attend. Another little story I'll tell in the about random introductions. In the late 90s, shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union and the beginnings of the Russian Federation, I had through a random phone call with actually someone on the other coast, I had an opportunity to meet an incubator manager from St. Petersburg. He was visiting in New York. I lived at that time in New Jersey. We got together the next day. We spent the next 2 days talking about how to form a venture capital industry in Russia. It was very exciting. We started working together. We put together a plan to establish a venture fair. The next year, when I was over in Russia again, we visited the head of a Russian government investment fund. He became very excited. The year after that, we had our first Russian venture fair in the parking garage of a new incubator in Moscow, and it was 20 degrees. After 5 years, the Russian venture fair, through a survey that we took, had created about $65 million in startup financing. So this idea of creating the ecosystem yourself really is true. Sometimes you just have to take matters in your own hands. And again, this was totally random. It just happened and it worked. So there's always an element of luck in there, but we were very happy with the results. Finally, I would just like to make a quick pitch on the blue economy, because I think if you are forming entrepreneurial ecosystems, this is the most diverse that I've seen, certainly the largest. And you can see all the industry sectors that are there. And you may be asking yourself, why is this guy talking about the blue economy? Well, consider this. 90% of world trade carriage is by sea. In other words, 90% of what we trade goes by ship. 17% of global protein intake comes from the sea. And 90% of plant life sustaining habitats lie under the sea. Our future is tied to all that water out there that you go to the beach to look at, and we must take it seriously, because this represents to people who want to develop new ecosystems a true opportunity in just about, well, you can see there are 6 different sectors there, and of course the technology one, the last. New technologies will support every single one of them. In any one of those industries, you can find technology. So I urge you to give that some consideration and think about how you might participate in it in some way. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that ecosystems need and respond to leaders and champions, that if you don't have an ecosystem, you should think about starting one, that gatekeepers don't always have the last word, that random meetings can lead to successful outcomes, and you just cannot underestimate the numbers of opportunities that await in building blue economy entrepreneurial ecosystems. So I hope that this is useful to you. I'm glad to talk to any of you at any time about this, because if you share my passion for entrepreneurship and also for preserving life under the sea, we're the folks to talk to. And there's my contact information. If you have a question or two, I'd be happy to answer it.
Very well done, Jeff. We're just about out of time. As far as I can see, if there's a question or two we have for Jeff, I'll leave a minute here if anybody has a question. Okay, having heard none, let me just say three quick things. Number one, Jeff, I want to apologize for mispronouncing your last name. Number two, I thought this was a very interesting paper, and particularly at the end, I enjoyed some of your stories too. These real world experiences really, I think, add to what we do in academia. So I think it's extremely valuable. And I, like maybe other people, have never really thought about this blue economy, and you're pointing out that it's really a source of tremendous growth and opportunity. I think that's extremely interesting. Third thing, and I know I'm out of time, I think we should all thank Dr. Hanadi Al-Mubaraki for putting this conference together. I think she's done a marvelous job, and I want to thank her for everything, and thank her for my opportunity to participate. So with that, I think this session is done, and we're ready to move on to the next session. I don't have all my paperwork in front of me. Hanadi, are you here? Okay, I'm not sure who's next here. Let me just see if I can find it. Somebody here?
Yes, Mike.
Okay, Hanadi, are you here to take over?
Yes, but Jeff, it's finalized. I think is Jeff finalized the presentation?
Okay.
Jeff, it's done now. This is time for handover.